Okay, the bottom line for boomers is I really don't think your benefits will be affected by Social Security reform. I just don't think that's going to come to pass. So what's a clearer way to think about Social Security? Well, very simply, it's an inflation protected income that you get in retirement. Doesn't matter what the markets are doing, doesn't matter if they're up, down, doesn't matter what treasuries are doing. You're going to get your Social Security check each month in the mailbox or in your bank account. But it's inflation protected income. I think that's huge. And you want to be smart when you take it. So if you want to look at someone who's got a monthly benefit of $2,000 per month and they live 10 more years, well, 2,000 times 12 months times 10, it's $240,000. Well, you're going to get 262, which reflects basically a 2% annual cost of living adjustment. As I just mentioned, this year it's going to be 2.5. Last year was 3 point whatever. 2% is pretty conservative. So, but it's pretty neat that it gets a cost of living adjustment. So how much can I expect to receive from Social Security? Well, really simply, and I try to keep this as simple as I can. You can go onto the Social Security website and read about all this, by the way. It's all there. But so your benefit is going to depend on two things. How much you earned over all the years that you worked and the age at which you decide to apply for benefits. Those are the two things that you're going to pay attention to. So how do they actually calculate your benefit? And you don't have to be a subject matter expert at this. I just want to make sure people are aware how this works so they understand the formula, they understand how they can positively impact their benefit. So here's how they do it. At age 62, each year's earnings are tallied up and indexed for inflation. Then they use the highest 35 years of earnings are averaged together. It's called the AIM, the averaged indexed monthly earnings. Now notice that I said the highest 35 years. I did not say highest consecutive 35 years. They just take the highest 35 years. So you could have had some years in there where you had zero Social Security earnings because perhaps you stayed at home that year and you raised your children, okay? That's why they don't use consecutive years. They use the highest 35 years. Now, if you don't have 35 years in your work record, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's just say you have 33 years in your work record and everything else are zeros. Well, guess what? The way they calculate the AIM is they still use 35 years. And in the example I just gave, if you have 33 years of numbers, they give you 2 years of zeros. What does that do to the average? Yes, drops it down. So one of the ways that I recommend to folks, if they can, later in their life, if they can work for a couple more years and get a full 35 where they don't have any zeros that are being added in, well, then their primary insurance amount, their PIA, which is the next statement there, their PIA, which is the amount that you'll get at your full retirement age, is going to be higher. Big deal. If you can get, the zeros out of your equation, okay, you're going to basically get a higher benefit. The benefit is then increased most years by a cost of living adjustment. And again, it's most years. It's not each year. It's most years. And I really have to revise that. It's not each year. There have been years, again, in the recent past, 6 years ago, where there was no cost of living adjustment given. So that is kind of how they do it. Here, I'm going to show you these bend points because it's important to understand this. So here we have a boomer born in 1963. So basically they turned 62 in 2025. And that's the cohort that I'm focusing on here, okay? This is an example of how the benefit formula is calculated. So the person had maximum earnings every year since age 22. What does that mean? Well, you know how I mentioned before that in 25, when you make $176,100, you no longer pay the 6.2%. What I'm saying here is this individual basically made the max that he can make each of those years, and then he got to a point where the 6.2% was not paid anymore. So, for example, back in 1987, I think the maximum wasn't anywhere near 176, but I think the maximum was about 82,000. I'm sorry, $72,000 back in 1980, mid 80s. That was the max that you could make as income, and then you'd stop paying the 6.2%. So what I'm saying here is this individual basically maxed out every year. The aim, again, averaged indexed monthly earnings is calculated by Social Security. And in this case, it's $13,689. What they do with that $13,689 is they put it into a formula. And the first $1,226 of the $13,689 gets multiplied by a bend point of 0.9. It comes out with a factor. The next 6165, as you can see on the chart, basically gets multiplied by a bend point of 0.32. And then the last 6298 by a bend point of 0.15. If you add up those $3 amounts, they add up to $13,689. That is how the PIA formula is done. The bend point is the same for everybody. The wealthy don't get a better bend point or a worse bend point. This is how it's done for everybody. If you add up the three numbers there, it comes to $4,020.90. So what is that? Well, for a boomer born in 1963 who made the maximum they could each year, the amount at their primary insurance age, okay, which if they're born in 1963, their primary insurance amount would be at age 67, and they would receive $4,020.90. That's what they'll get at full retirement age. So it's important to understand it. That's the benefit they would get. Okay, now that we got that down, that's good to know. Okay, I understand. But why shouldn't I just collect at 62 instead of delaying to full retirement age? Great question. And I get this question a lot. So if you do that, your monthly benefit is going to be reduced if you claim early. So in other words, if you collect at 62, you don't get the 4,022 that I just mentioned. If you collect at 62, you only get 75% of that 4,022. You don't get 4,022 till you wait till age 67, because that would be a person born in 1963. Age 67 is their full retirement age benefit, FRA. It may also be reduced for taxes and Medicare premiums, which I'll show you in a minute. And benefits could be withheld if you decide to collect your Social Security and you want to work. That's called something, and I'll talk about it in a few charts. That's something called the earnings test. The earnings test applies if you decide to collect your Social Security early, i.e., prior to full retirement age, and you want to work. It is going to impact your Social Security benefit, possibly, and I'll show that to you in just a couple minutes. Okay, so when should I apply for benefits? Well, again, that is not a simple answer. And these are the attributes, these are the principles that I've used in the past to really determine when someone should apply. You know, what's your health status? What's your life expectancy? Is there a true need for income? In other words, are you limited in the income sources you have for retirement? So Social Security has to be turned on. I certainly understand that. Another factor, whether or not you plan to work. And then lastly, survivor needs. So survivor needs, I think that's really important, because here's the situation. Husband and wife, traditionally, this is changing, okay, but I'm just going to go traditionally. Who has been the higher earner? Well, men have been. That's changing, okay, men have been. Women are making more money now than ever, but men traditionally have made more. Actuarially speaking, by the way, who passes away first? Well, men do. So the idea here is that you want to make sure that the maximum amount of income is left to the surviving spouse. And the way you do that is to have the higher earning spouse wait the longest they can. My recommendation would be age 70 to collect their benefit. And the reason for that is because when they decease, and it's normally the male, that higher benefit is what the wife gets with regard as far as the survivor benefit goes. If the wife passes away first, the husband just simply keeps that higher benefit. And that's why it's critically important to think about survivor needs when you're doing the Social Security analysis. Will Social Security be enough to live in retirement? And I kind of talked about that. Probably not. But again, if it represents 30 to 35% of your retirement income, your monthly retirement income, don't you think it's a good idea to try to maximize that in any way you can? And that's really the rationale of why I do this presentation. I want to make sure people understand there are ways to maximize their Social Security benefit. Okay, what is your full retirement age? I've mentioned this term quite a bit. This is during the Reagan administration. I'll just bring it up again. So back, when Reagan's 1980s, full retirement age was 66. Then he came in and he changed it that if you're born after 1960 and later, well, 67 now is your full retirement age. And then there's that gradation or those levels that I talked about before. Again, 1956, your full retirement age is 66 and 6 months. It is important for you to know your full retirement age. If you don't remember what it is, if you pull your Social Security statement, on your Social Security statement, it tells you what your full retirement age is because they know the year of birth. They know the year you were born. Okay, so what if you apply for benefits early? I mentioned this, but this is so important. I want to mention it again. So if you apply at say age 62, and your full retirement age is age 66, well, you're going to take a haircut. You are not going to get your full benefits that you'd otherwise receive at full retirement age, which would be age 66. And you can see the gradation here. If you collected 62, well, then you only get 75% of your PIA. You get 80% when you're 63. And if your full retirement age is age 67, you see the numbers there. If you decide to collect at 62, you're only going to get 70% of the benefit. It's a big deal. You don't get 100% until you wait till full retirement age. Now, the next chart, this is probably one of the most important things. There's something out there called delayed credits. And a lot of people don't realize these are out there. And here's how they work. Let's say you came to my class here and you know about delayed credits and you wait, to take your check. Well, if your full retirement age is 66 and you don't take your check and you wait 12 months till age 67, well, now you don't get 100% of your primary insurance amount. The government guarantees to give you 8% more or 108%. Guaranteed. So when I have people say to me, well, you know what, I can take, my Social Security benefit at age 62 and I'll make 8%. But here's the issue. That's not guaranteed. And that's a big risk, taking something that's a major asset towards your retirement income and you're taking that kind of risk with it. I just don't think that's a good idea. Here, you're guaranteed 8%. For me to get you 8% as an investment advisor, I'd have to have you mostly in what? Well, stock. And you're going to go into high stock positions at the time you're getting ready to retire. Well, what happens if the market moves against you? Yeah, exactly. That could be disastrous. And I'll just point out, if your full retirement age is 66 and you wait till 70, you're going to get 32% more than what you would have gotten at age 66. It is such a big deal. It is such a big deal to try to have the higher earner, and this is what I recommend, have the higher earner wait till 70 to take their check and get all of these delayed credits. I just think it's a tremendous strategy. So here's some estimators. These are pretty good. They're right on the Social Security website. Incidentally, if you have not created an account on Social Security, please do so. Great. Then you can grab a statement anytime you like. You can look up your benefit. You can look up the numbers. Make sure that what they have there is accurate for you because they have made mistakes. And we're going to get into this. How can I maximize my benefits? Well, I'll tell you, one of the things is, and you want to make sure it's accurate. So one of the reasons why you want to get your Social Security statement is that they actually list on there exactly what they know to be the earned income that you have each year from your W-2s. So, and it actually comes from your tax filings, okay? So you want to make sure it's accurate. Are there any missing years? Okay, it's not a perfect system. Please double check it. Make sure that if you worked, from 2000 to 2010, just make sure it's 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2010, 9. Make sure they're all there. Make sure all the years have numbers. It is so critically important. And this last one I mentioned before, can you improve it by working longer? Remember what Social Security does. It takes the top 35 years. If you don't have 35 years of numbers, well, then and let's just say you have 32 years of numbers, well, Social Security is going to give you 3 years of zeros. The game would be to try to get those zeros knocked out and get any number in there so that you have something in there so it doesn't drive down the average lower for your primary insurance amount. That would be a very big deal to try to accomplish that. Apply at the optimal time. Some of the things you want to consider is your income needs, both now and in the future, your life expectancy and your spouse's life expectancy. Let's talk a little bit about taxation of benefits. And, here's how this works. So, and I mentioned this before, you want to keep in mind this earnings test. And here it is. If you apply for Social Security before full retirement age and you want to work, well, $1 in benefits is going to be withheld for every $2 you make over $23,400 in 2025. In other words, the government gives you a chit. It's a chit of $23,400. If you make $23,400 or less and you have your Social Security turned on at age 62, you get to keep your entire Social Security check. However, if you go over the $23,400 of earnings, then they will start to decrement your benefit $1 for every $2 you earn over that. Benefit will be adjusted later on. Okay, it will be adjusted. Don't let the earnings test discourage you from working. And the reason I say that is because the chances, so let's just talk about this a minute. You're turning on Social Security, you're 63. You turn on Social Security, you're making, $23,400. Okay, with a part-time job or it's a full-time job, whatever it is, you're making the $23,400. Or let's just say you're making 22, you're making under. And let's just say your earnings that year is $20,000. Well, remember what I said earlier. If you have goose eggs in your record and that $20,000 can replace a zero, well, your following year's Social Security benefit is going to go up. Why? Well, because you improved the 35 years they're using. Now, instead of using zeros within the 35, they're using the 20,000 you made at age 63. Even though your benefit is turned on, you get to improve your benefit. That's how the system is built. So if you want to truly avoid the earnings test, well, then wait till your full retirement age. And that is, you figure that out by take the year you were born, and you can figure out the full retirement age based on the chart I showed earlier. And let's just, for fun, you were born in 1957. Okay, your full retirement age is 66 and 6 months. Well, if you want to avoid the earnings test, well, then wait 66 and 6 months before taking a job. Then you can make triple, almost triple what the $23,004 shows. And for every $1 in benefits you get, every dollar will be decreased for every $3 you earn over that amount. So and then after that, after your full retirement age, you really can make as much as you like. There is no earnings test applying. So be aware of the earnings test. It's something that catches people off guard when they see their Social Security checks suddenly go down. But again, it only applies for those who decide to turn on their Social Security prior to full retirement age and they want to work. Okay, it's a select group that it applies to.